Hey, Washington Commanders fan. I have two absolutely important pieces of news you need to know before the game, and I promise the first one will get you excited, while the second will completely frustrate you. The first piece of news brings three extremely bold predictions about how this game might unfold, including one that will make you believe we can actually win this match, even though we are considered the underdogs. And the second piece of news unfortunately confirms that recurring nightmare we all feared about a player who simply can't stay healthy. Subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications, because you can't miss any analysis on the Commanders in this final stretch. And leave that, like if you're ready to believe in the improbable happening. Let's start with the three bold predictions I have for the primetime clash against the Broncos. And I truly believe at least two of them will come true. The Washington Commanders will try to end their absolutely horrendous streak of 6 consecutive losses when they host the Denver Broncos on Sunday Night Football under the national spotlight. The Broncos have an impressive track record of 9 wins and only 2 losses. But the Commanders are well rested after a bye week and will welcome back some extremely important players. Marcus Mariota returns as the starting quarterback, as Jayden Daniels will miss another week recovering, but star wide receiver Terry McLaurin, safety Will Harris, and other key reinforcements will be present for Washington. The general expectation is that Washington will keep the game competitive, especially against a Broncos team that urgently needs to see a drop in performance after so many consecutive wins. The first bold prediction I have is that the defense will keep the Commanders in the game in a surprising way. Throughout the entire season, the mood of pessimism in Washington has completely revolved around the tremendous struggles of the defense that has been an embarrassment. But that won't repeat itself this week against a Broncos team that enforces its rules but is not invincible. Denver occupies a mid-tier position, being 14th in offensive yards per game and 16th in points per game, so they are not an unstoppable offensive machine. Sean Payton's team turns every game into a real trench battle where every possession matters. The Commanders will have real difficulty scoring against that strong defense, but that will also limit the Broncos' opportunities, especially if Washington's defensive line can consistently pressure quarterback Bo Nix and throw him completely off his comfortable rhythm. The defensive unit showed a significant improvement against the Miami Dolphins in Madrid after coach Dan Quinn personally took over the defensive coordination, and they will heavily rely on that to improve even further. I genuinely believe we will see the defense hold the Broncos to less than 20 points in regulation time, which would be a considerable feat. The second bold prediction is that Jake Moody, our new kicker, will be forced to step into action early and often during the game. The newest member of the Commanders will make his official debut with the team at a very opportune moment against a Broncos team that leads the entire NFL by a large margin in defense in the red zone. Denver has limited opponents to a ridiculously low touchdown rate of just 35.7% after crossing the opponent's 20-yard line, over 7 percentage points ahead of the league's second place. The Broncos' defense rarely gives up easy positions, and certainly does not break when the pressure mounts. If Washington managed to move the ball reasonably well during their offensive drives, don't be at all surprised if some of those drives stall at extremely favorable moments, forcing field goal attempts to repeatedly test the Commanders' new kicker. This is going to be a true trial by fire for Moody, but I believe he'll perform well under pressure. And now comes the third and boldest prediction of all, which will make a lot of people call me crazy. Washington secures an ugly but extremely important victory that defines their identity for the rest of the season. Want to talk about true boldness? Then let's go all in because, as is often said in the NFL, anything can happen on any given Sunday. Almost every week of the season there is at least one completely unexpected result that catches everyone by surprise. Washington has lost 6 frustrating games in a row, while Denver has impressively won 8 straight games. And I believe both streaks are about to end dramatically on Sunday night. The Broncos simply are not as good as their 9 wins and 2 losses record superficially indicates. They have secured extremely tight victories all season long, some of them born from absolutely impeccable execution at crucial moments, which is admirable, but many others were just pure luck. Meanwhile, Washington is on the completely opposite end of that equation, with devastating injuries and a brutal schedule making them look significantly worse than they really are when you look deeper. The Commanders are gradually recovering and come off a refreshing bye week. More importantly, they have the crucial advantage of playing at home in front of their fans. This seems to me to be precisely the type of game where Washington stays competitive throughout and finally gets a few crucial opportunities in the decisive moments. I predict that the losing streak will end in the same surprising way it began, with an absolutely decisive field goal from Moody in the final moments. Much stranger things have happened in the NFL, and this would be a perfect script considering everything. But now we need to talk about the second piece of news that unfortunately confirms that familiar nightmare we've all been anticipating for weeks. Injuries have completely plagued the Washington Commanders this season in every possible way. Some established stars are gradually returning, but it's already too late to truly save the team's efforts in 2025, unfortunately. However, one specific factor continues to tremendously frustrate fans week after week. Noah Brown genuinely seemed ready to finally return to the active roster after participating in this week's practices encouragingly. He has been sidelined since week 2 due to ongoing knee and ankle issues that simply won't heal, but the signs were extremely encouraging for the wide receiver on the eve of the Washington game against the Denver Broncos in national prime time. Unfortunately, and predictably, the medical staff deemed it too early for him to safely return. Brown was ruled out again for another week, which means, frustratingly, that he will have only 5 games left to convince the coaching staff that he deserves a new contract when the 2026 offseason finally arrives. This seems extremely unlikely at this moment, considering everything that has happened. One simply cannot count on Brown to stay healthy consistently, and the fact that he has taken so long to recover from his most recent health issues only drastically worsens his already precarious situation. This will definitely not go unnoticed by General Manager Adam Peters, who seems absolutely determined to implement significant and necessary changes to the roster as soon as the season finally ends. Brown is genuinely a good player when he is in top physical and mental shape. The Commanders simply haven't seen that often enough this entire season, which started horribly with him being taken off the field on a stretcher during Washington's mandatory minicamp. That was literally the beginning of an extremely worrying trend of constant injuries, and head coach Dan Quinn clearly felt that the availability goals for the wide receiver were not being met anywhere near before all of this. Perhaps one more week of full practices will be enough for Brown to finally step onto the field during the final stretch of the season. The Commanders are being extremely cautious and conservative, especially considering the absurd amount of time he has been completely unavailable to help. Until then, Washington will rely solely on their available healthy receivers, which also include the returning duo of Terry McLaurin, a second-team All-Pro, and Treylon Burks under the national spotlight of Sunday Night Football. The Commanders simply do not have the space or luxury for sentimentalism when it comes to crucial roster decisions next spring. Peters has some extremely difficult choices ahead that will define the future. Still, it seems that letting Brown try his luck elsewhere will definitely be one of the easier decisions to make, unless there's an absolutely miraculous turnaround in the coming weeks. Fans are not exactly very optimistic about his chances of coming back strong. Even if Brown finally returns to play, it may take a considerable amount of time for him to regain his game rhythm and the necessary confidence. And with so few games left in the season, he simply does not have that time available. So it's not hard to realistically imagine a scenario where the Commanders take a completely different path during the offseason. It has been a tale of pure bad luck for Brown from the start. But this is an absolutely ruthless business where availability matters more than skill. The cruel reality is that you can't help the medical team, and Brown has spent more time there than on the field making plays. It's frustrating for everyone involved, but especially for him as he sees his window of opportunity closing quickly. The question now is whether he can at least show something in these last weeks to secure a contract somewhere in the league, even if not here in Washington. Because the way things are going, he might end up without a job next season if he doesn't prove he can stay healthy, and that would be sad considering the talent he has when he can get on the field. So the final question I leave for you to ponder and respond in the comments is, considering these 3 bold predictions I made, including the unlikely win against the Broncos, and considering Noah Brown's frustrating situation that seems destined to lead him out of the team, do you believe my predictions have any real chance of coming true, or am I just a deluded optimist clinging to impossible hopes? And more importantly, do you think the organization should give Brown another chance next season, or is it time to move on and invest in receivers who can actually stay healthy?